Wizard101 might have just added the most powerful spells they've ever added into the game. So a couple of days ago, I made a video talking about all the new balanced school spells that they added this update. It looks like not only did they add even more, but they started actually updating spells on other schools. We're talking about super iconic spells like Rusalka, like Wraith. I thought today we would talk about all of the spells that they changed. These changes mostly happened today, so it's gonna be a little bit of a doozy. Let's get right into it. Starting right off with Rusalka. This is one of those spell changes in test run that I think I never would have seen coming, because I thought Rusalka was actually very good the way that it was. They made Storm's best spell even better. What it used to do was, right, it would do the same amount of damage, but the random Storm Blade that you would get would either be a 35% blade or it would be one of two flat blades, 180 or 300. Now, the thing about flat blades, they just add damage. They don't multiply damage like 35% blades, like 45% blades. But I guess that's not going to be a thing anymore. Now it's just randomly a good blade, a better blade, or even better blade. I really don't like this approach. I do think that Storm needs more to be competitive in PvP, and it should just be a really hard-hitting school. But I feel like the 1400 damage is already hard-hitting enough to the point where getting a guaranteed extra buff on your next hit, I'm just very confused by this route altogether. In a continuation of their, you know, like, I guess just getting rid of flat blades in general, I guess we're just not going to see them. They also made Triton Spellman path different as well. And this one, at least, it's a little bit cooler because it's a conditional, but this is also a very nutty spell now. It's a 55 blade when people heal against you. So basically what this used to do was, right, it would clear a heal for 2 flat blades, and now it clears 2 heals for 2 55 blades. And what I believe this card is capable of doing is, if someone has 2 heals on them, I'm pretty sure it clears both of them and gives you 4 55 blades. Meaning Storm, which was already extremely good against life, is now even better for like, for forever, basically, I think. Because honestly, if you heal over time now, I just think that you're gonna lose. I do like the spell that they went, like, I like the idea that they have with Triton a little bit more, but I'm so concerned about 55 blades in this game, especially because you have so much damage. You can always just strike. Like, I don't know, there's a lot of things about this that are a little weird. We'll see. Will the anti-heal identity of Storm really just solidify now? Will the blade identity be super, super slick? We really won't know, but I still think this type of blade, it's crazy in a meta like this. What's wild is that Storm was not the only school with like flat stuff happening. That actually had 2 spells that gave both a flat blade and a flat weakness. So they changed those as well. And these are very interesting, y'all. One big thing is Gravestorm. I actually really like this spell. Not mainly because it's like, you know, it's not really that crazy, but it's just way better than it used to be. What it used to do was, it used to literally sacrifice weaknesses or infections that you have on your opponent, and it would give you flat blades. But now you get 60% Storm Blades, bro. 60%. Now here's the thing, I don't really see Death Wizards using this unless they're dual schooling, because yeah, you can get blades for a blade gambit, but really that 60% makes it so that dual school Storm is much more valuable as a death. I could totally imagine setting up a Turmoil Oni, getting too many infections, and gambiting my extra infections to buff up a Turmoil Oni and just win on the spot. It's very, very possible that this will be very meta for dual school. So I kind of do like it. I feel like it's way better than flat blades, because flat blades are, especially on a death, they were just not going to be useful. There could also be some kind of crazy universe where Storms also can use this. I think that's a little less likely, but it's not completely out of the realm of impossible. Like, you could do it. It's not impossible. And as if the party couldn't get any crazier, they also made Wraith go from flat weaknesses on its gambit to regular weaknesses. Y'all, this might be the craziest spell that Death has ever gotten. I don't know if y'all are seeing what I'm seeing, but this is busted. This spell, it gambits blades on yourself to add weaknesses onto your opponent. The strongest weaknesses we have ever seen in this game, minus 65 weaknesses. It's more powerful than the vampire weakness, and the only thing that's more powerful than it is Juju. So like, other than, you know, other than literally bad Juju, other than this spell right here, Wraith is officially the most powerful weakness in the game. So how does this spell work? Let's say that you have 1 blade on yourself. It will basically take it off, weakness your opponent for minus 65, and then drain for 505. But if you have 2 blades on yourself, it'll take both of the blades off, and then it'll put 2 minus 65 weaknesses on your opponent and do the drain. As much as I love this spell, I'm extremely concerned about the fact that you can spam this in Shrike. And that's the thing that I don't think anybody's looking at this and seeing that right away. The thing about Shrike is it gives a Pierce Blade. So you can literally put on an aura, throw out a Shrike, and not only are you draining, but you're getting free blades by hitting because Shrike gives you a Pierce Blade. So you could basically just spam a 6-pip hit that drains for a ton, is buffed by your aura, and you also get a -65 weakness because of the Shrike Pierce Blade. So I feel like this could be broken in Shrike. I guess we'll see. Maybe it's going to be extremely meta to carry Death Dispels and maybe, like, I don't know, Death Shields, like set shields. I don't think this is as crazy as a Rusalka change, but it is still something to watch out for, so make sure you watch out for it. Now, the flat damage updates aside, Balance also got a bunch of other spells updated, and these go a little crazy. Brace yourselves, y'all, because this is what it looks like when they actually audit the Balance spells, and oh my god, some of it is nuts. Let's start with the good news. Scales of Destiny isn't actually crazy anymore. Now, right now, the card text is glitched, so it doesn't actually show what it's doing, but basically, they made it so each side of this hit does 200 damage, so it does a 200 damage life hit, a 200 damage ice hit, and then a 200 damage balance hit. But before, it used to give you a pip if you were above 50% HP, which made this extremely spammable. But now, it's doing this thing called Echo. Now, we've never really seen an Echo concept in Wiz before, but it looks like it's going to be very a balanced kind of thing. And basically what it is, if your opponent has a shield, it'll give you a 35 shield, and if your opponent has a heal over time, it'll give you a 5-round 450 life heal. And that makes a lot of sense, right? It's a spell that requires an ice pip and a life pip. So obviously it's gonna do something where it involves getting shields on you and heals on you. But this little Echo concept is very interesting. We might see a lot of this. I think Hydra kind of uses that a little bit. If your opponent has shields, it gives you shields. Spectral Blast kind of does that. If you have blades, you get more blades. So I feel like that's what Balance is gonna be more and more about. It's about everything under the sun when it comes to blades, weaknesses, all of that. But maybe now it's more about echoing it. Maybe it's more about going one route more because spells reward that. Now, I went through the rank 1 through 6 spells already, so y'all should definitely check out the video where I use this in PvP and just a video where I cover this. But the actual gambits also got changed, and they're very different now. Tribunal Oni, instead of being 7 pips, it's now 9 pips, so it's actually much closer to good damage. And the gambit, for it doing ×2 on, I guess, like every head, meaning like basically 1800 damage almost, like give or take. The gambit for that is that you need 2 blades on yourself and 2 weaknesses on your opponent. Now that is pretty hard to do in my opinion, because there are weakness counters, there are blade counters, which is why the actual, like, you know, ramp spell that sets it up is very important here, right? And it's also crazy. It also uses the Echo concept. And I guess the Echo concept here is that if your opponent has blades, you get a +50 blade. And if you have weaknesses, you can put a -40 weakness on your opponent. And what this little 2 out of 2 thing says is that it can do this twice depending on what's on you. I think that's utterly nuts, but if I'm understanding this right, you could actually set up the gambit immediately with this, as long as you have 2 weaknesses on yourself and your opponent has 2 blades. What this spell will do in that scenario is it'll literally give you 2 blades, give your opponent 2 weaknesses, and set up this whole ass spell. I don't mind the concept of the Echo, but I think both the fact that you can do 2 in 1 turn for both blade and weakness, and also just the value of the blades and weaknesses, this makes this a crazy spell. You might get into a scenario where just blading against a balance or weaknessing them is risky just because Oni's shadow is a thing. That being said, it doesn't remove the actual weaknesses or blades, so keep that in mind, right? You'll still keep your blades if you're going against a balance. You'll still keep the weaknesses, very important. So it's not that nuts, but it is something. It's just different. It's something to watch out for. Similarly, Duststorm Gin is extremely different now, and it's even more powerful as a 9-pip because it's based on elemental damage. Now, if you get the ×2 gambit, you're looking at 670 damage per head. Do the math out on 3 heads, and you're looking at over 2,000 damage for 9 pips. That is extremely powerful. The only saving grace is you have a higher chance of hitting into a ward when you use 3 schools, and flat resist is also acting on every part of this instead of just one part. That being said, it's still extremely powerful. Now, the gambit, it looks to me like you need 2 shields on yourself and 2 traps on your opponent. And yes, you guessed it, just like Oni's Shadow, it uses, the setup for this uses like an ecosystem to set up what you need. Essentially, if you have traps on you, your opponent can end up with 50 traps on them. And if your opponent has shields, you can end up with shields on yourself, presumably. Once again, I could be reading this wrong. I don't think I am. I'm pretty sure that if you have 2 traps on yourself and your opponent has 2 shields, you will end up with 2 traps on your opponent and 2 shields on yourself. Now, this spell, I can just see this being used just for what it does, because honestly, getting traps and shields in the same round is absolutely nuts. Now, the very good news is, I feel like Tribunal Oni and Duststorm Gin, they run into one simple weakness at the end of the day, and it's the fact that, you know, literally Ellie shields, Ellie shields exist and Spirit shields exist. So I don't really think that, you know, like, it's going to be impossible to counter these. But if someone's really hell-bent on using some of these spells and getting these gambits set up, they can do it pretty easily and give you a lot of trouble in the meantime. I'm extremely glad they changed this spell, because if this spell existed with all the other stuff that Balance has, it would have been a shame, because 1, people would have kept spamming this, and I don't think that's fair. And 2, based on this audit, we really know what Balance is, and it stands for something, and it's powerful. It's a school that swaps stuff and echoes stuff, so you got to be careful not to give them too much to play with, because when you do, that's when they have a lot of control. They'll seize that control and they'll win. It looks like Scales and Eye of Vigilance and Scion, it looks like they're staying the same, which honestly, I'm pretty happy about. I think, honestly, it's just a dynamic in the game where when your opponent has 11 pips, you might have to watch out. I think that actually fits very well with spells like Mana Burn and other pip-oriented stuff that Balance is known for. But now, you're looking at a situation where blades, traps, shields, and weaknesses all have some sort of counterplay when you're going against a Balance. It's something to watch out for, and I think the really good Balance players are gonna have a lot of fun with this. So I hope it's something that people look forward to. What do you guys think of all of these changes? I haven't even covered the pip changes that they've done. That'll be tomorrow's video, so turn on noties. But Rasalka, Wraith, Jin, Oni for Balance, I mean, these are crazy changes. Let me know what y'all's opinions are. I think this is a juicy video to weigh in on, because I think the devs read the comments. They'll probably see the feedback. Let me know what you guys think. I look forward to reading all of y'all's comments. As always, drop a like if you enjoyed, leave a sub if you're new, and if somebody hasn't told you you're awesome today, they doing something wrong. Stay awesome, y'all. See y'all soon. And yeah.